Hello you guys, and welcome back to this Old Masters for Young Players series. This is the very last song in the book, and it's called Erinnerung by Robert Schumann, and that means memory. So it's a very sweet little piece. For those of you on Patreon, this is your weekly lesson video. And as always, in the post for today, there is the link to this and also my notes attached for you. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're just watching this later. And the link to this etude is, as always, in the YouTube description. So I hope you enjoy this. Today we're looking at the first half of Erinnerung, or Memory, by Robert Schumann. I'm going to play it, and then we're going to go through it together and just highlight certain things that should be helpful in your practice. So here's the first half of Erinnerung. And just remember, this is supposed to be played with piano, so we're missing half of the beauty of this piece. That rhythm there. There we go. And then it goes back to the beginning. So there's some tricky things in here. So let's first of all, there's 3 sharps. Let's make a note that there's F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. So that way you know where to put your fingers for this one. It's also andante. Andante is maybe around 72. This is in 2/4, so that means that every click that you hear at 72 is a quarter note, because there are 2 quarter notes in the measure, 2/4. It's also piano, which is soft and gentle and quietly. So it's really a good idea to play this maybe in the upper half of the bow, the upper part of the bow, and also maybe closer to the fingerboard. You can experiment with flatter hair, or you can kind of tilt the hair a little bit so you're just kind of on the side there a little bit more. I've popped in some helpful, hopefully, or possibly difficult fingerings, but they're there to kind of help with the beauty of the phrase. So, and to avoid maybe some string crossings that we want to avoid. So let me start from the beginning. Put a 4th finger on this one, and a 4th finger on this A here. This is in the 3rd measure. And then instead of doing, let's shift up to 2nd position. Just put a 2 on that first 8th note, D. And then 4th finger is going to go on the F sharp. E is a whole step, F sharp is a whole step. So this last measure of line 1 sounds like this. And then you're going to come back down on the 2nd line to 1. Maybe another time with the 4th finger, just like the beginning on that quarter note A, measure 3. Now we run into an A sharp. It's just a low one. It's just a half step higher than your open A. So reach back, 1, and then a big stretch up to the C sharp, because if it's just a whole step, this is just a C natural. So we need a step and a half there. And then open A, and then we go over to that G sharp on line 3. So this measure that we just looked at is one of those tricky ones. So I would spend a little bit of time just trying to get your fingers without the bow around it. And then once your fingers can kind of do that, then you can add the bow. And you notice on the open A, my fingers aren't back here. They're actually ready to go. And then the trickiest measure. So before we even think about any of those grace notes, this is line 3, measure 2. Before we think about the grace notes, let's just play it without them. So we have 3rd finger for the C sharp, and then first finger just goes right over for D sharp. and then comes up to 1. In Patreon, or on Patreon, I've written a half BHP in this section right here, because this is the basic hand pattern, which looks like this, right? Our just regular hand pattern where you have first finger, a second finger, a third finger, fourth finger in this position. It's just, normally it's a whole step up for the first finger from A to B, but in this case we're on A sharp, and then this would be C. This is your C sharp, and if you needed it, this would be actually D sharp, but we don't need to worry about that, thankfully. So if you just remember that you need second finger to help you to find that third finger. Second finger is a whole step, third finger is right next to it. First finger goes across for this D sharp here, and then you're back to normal. So if you can do that, then we can start to add the grace notes. So the grace notes, I'm going to start from that A sharp quarter note, B with second finger, back to the A sharp, open A for the G double sharp there, and then A sharp again. So, and then you go to the third finger. So they're just all squished together. So just keep them tight together. The last thing that's tricky about this, now that we've talked about the fingering, is the timing. So let's put a big line through beat 1. That's the first note. Then when you get to the third finger, let's put another big line. That's beat 2. So if I start the previous measure, let me put the metronome on so that you can hear the beat. I'm going to make it a little slower, so rather than being at 72, I just want you to really clearly hear this. I'm going to put it at 50. So this is a quarter note. So we've got 1, 2. This is the previous measure. This is the beginning of line 3. 1, 2. I'll play it a few times. It's really fast for those grace notes, isn't it? I just realized I need to tighten my bow. Goodness, let's do that. So last time. So I think that's kind of the trickiest, that measure and then that previous one where we talked about, this is the end of line 2. That's a tricky place. Also, the fingering I gave you in second position back on line 1, measure 3. Shift a half step to the D with your 2, and then 2 whole steps to the fourth finger, and then back down. So with that, let me play you the whole first half again. I'm going to put the metronome at 72. It's a little bit faster than I think I was playing it. So let's go ahead and put the bow in the upper half. I'm not going to start here. I'm going to start in the upper half, closer to the fingerboard. And we've got 1, 2. And it's really fast at the end, so in order that you don't sound rushed, even though it's not really written there, you could take a little bit of time maybe to just kind of place that last little note there. With that, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week where we look at the second half, which is very similar, but we're going to talk about some slightly different things in the second half. I'll see you then. Thanks so much for being here, and don't forget, please go check out Patreon. That's linked below for you in the YouTube description if you're watching this on YouTube. All right, lots of love, you guys.